just when we did the walkthrough for one of the properties, we saw like 20 dogs out there. But when you look at the T12 and the rent roll and everything, they're only like 5 for like paying a pet fee. So things like that, just trying to improve on that. Also storage areas in the carport. So extra needs in terms of income that way. So just the little things that add on, pet fees, storage fees, and things like that. So that just drives the NOI up.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor! 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 Doctor!
Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schloe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Alex Schloe, and I'm so glad that you're here joining me for another episode. As always, our guests are just incredible, and I learned so much from them, and I hope that you do as well. Our guest today is Dr. Calvin Lowe. He is a full-time physician in the Division of Emergency and Transport Medicine at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. He has been practicing in academics for 31 years and serves as the medical director of the Perwin Emergency Transport Program. He is well-renowned nationally and internationally. He is an incredible wealth of knowledge. He is a great husband and father, his wife Peggy, his kids Elizabeth and Austin, and they have been investing in multifamily apartment investing, him and his wife Peggy. We talk a lot in this podcast about the importance of having your spouse on board, the importance of networking and masterminding. We go through Calvin's portfolio of 850 doors with properties in Arizona, California, and Texas, and Utah as well. He is a limited partner investor as well as a general partner investor, and we talk about that transition and what the difference means. And we talk a lot about things that matter more, which is wellness, which is your mental health, which is be a good and present parent and what that looks like. This was a really great podcast episode. If you learned something from this podcast, do me a favor, share it with a physician who needs to hear this. And also use those thumbs, give us a 5-star rating and a review. Thanks so much for your time. Let's get started with today's episode with Dr. Calvin Lowe. Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast. Thanks for joining us from sunny Southern California. Appreciate your time. Folks will certainly benefit from hearing your journey and learning about all the amazing things that you've done. Do you mind telling folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a native Southern Californian, born and raised. I work at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I'm a full-time pediatric emergency medicine physician there. And I'm in the midst of my 31st academic year, so I've been there for a while. I'm also a faculty at the Keck School of Medicine at the University of Southern California. I'll plug the Trojans. I'll fight on. And I'm also the medical director of the Perwin Emergency Transport Team. So the pediatric emergency transport team, which we bring kids from all over the world to various places, including Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I'm married for 32 years, have 2 adult children, Elizabeth and Austin. And that's pretty much it. I'm just really happy to be here, share my story and learn about you as well. And, folks out there in the medical world who want to, enjoy a different lifestyle, a different change in their careers.
What a great story. And you definitely have your hand in a lot of hats and doing a lot of things. How have you seen over the last 31 years, how have you seen academics change or medicine change, either for better or for worse? What insights do you have in that?
Yeah, it's amazing how much technology, has been going on, right? Just so fast, just even in the transport world, where before we were just transported by ambulances. Now we have 2 helicopters. We're going to be restarting or revamping our fixed wing programs. So we'll be traveling to countries that I remember early in my career, we used to fly all over the world, like to Australia, Mexico, Canada, and so forth. We sort of dropped that off. And now we're seeing that at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, we have the resources that obviously that are not available to other parts of the world, even our own country here in the U.S. So try to bring the kids over here to optimize their care and give them the best help of, treatment, recovery, and so forth. So yeah, it's just like now I'm one of the senior members of our group. I used to be the youngest, and just learning from the junior members, even from the residents, right? And think, oh my gosh, I don't remember that. And so it's a two-way street. I really enjoy it now because people come to me because I have salt and pepper hair look now, right? They kick on. But really, I enjoy it because it is a two-way street where I can learn from them in terms of what the latest things are going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love education as well, and teaching med students and some NP and PA students. It's been so much fun. It's really cool to see how much they know. And I feel like I learned so much too, because it really forces you to stay up to date on things that are going on in the medical world. And it's just a blast to have that opportunity. So really cool to hear about your 31 years, and congrats on that. That's amazing. What have been some things that you've noticed that have been helpful for like longevity in medicine, over the 31 years? What are some things if people are looking for a new job, or there's a resident looking to get started, as an attending, what are some things that you'd recommend throughout your experience?
Well, I think it's just the wellness, right? It's the balance that you have. I love what I do. It's been the grind. We were just talking about Southern California traffic. What I don't like is the grind of driving. I live 30 miles away from a hospital, right? But once I get there, I love what I do. But you just have that balance, because, just the grind that you have, it just takes you not just physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and it's tough. And, that's where I am today, just trying to get that balance and that wellness. I've had fellow applicants, I would ask them questions. I said, well, tell me what you do outside the hospital, because we know that you're good. We vetted you. You're here for an interview. You're great on paper. And one person said, you know what? I just love working at the hospital. I just love coming here. I'm like, no. Let me tell you something, right? And he appreciated it afterwards. So I think that's what it is. Yeah, we work hard. We do a service, but you got to enjoy your life outside of the hospital too. You have family, have kids, and so forth. So that's my word of advice.
I think that pendulum is really starting to change in terms of really pushing towards wellness and pushing towards balance. And I think it's interesting to see and super important. I think balance is a really interesting topic. What do you think, if you don't mind me asking, what do you think balance means to you? And another question, which maybe doesn't even have an answer, but do you think that balance is something that can actually be achieved?
That's a great question. It depends on what your definition is, right? Balance for me, like now, I enjoy being at home, just whether time with my wife, we go traveling now, but, I just still have to have that interactions at work, because all the relationships that I've built up and to do what I do. Can it be achieved? Well, maybe. Because it's hard, right? Because we have our responsibilities, not only clinically, but administratively. We got, research and stuff. Because my wife used to think, oh, you're home, let's do something. So, well, I have to, like right now, all day, I'm actually working on a lecture that I'm giving in January, but I have to finish it now. But is that balance? Because I could be doing things like now I joined Orange Theory with my wife. So we've been going like every other day, and just, that's, just cool just to do something outside of work. And again, just trying to minimize the grind, so to speak. It's just, I don't have to drive everywhere.
I think even balance in general, just kind of striving for balance. I don't know if we'll ever have balance, but I just like picture myself on a seesaw kind of running back and forth, trying to get to that midpoint where things are balanced. And sometimes that's going to shift more towards work, and sometimes that's going to shift more towards home. And it just hopefully evens out over time, or, honestly, hopefully it leans way more towards family over time, to be completely honest, which is why we do what we do with real estate and so forth as well. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I think something for folks who are listening to this to think about, like, what does balance mean to you, and how can you shift more towards a more balanced life with your family and your work life as well? Because it is really difficult as a physician.
Yeah, as I look back, because early in my career, I was the yes man. Yeah, I'll work that shift. I'll do this. I'll do that. And just all that time that I spent, I thought I was doing the right thing. I'm making money, I got a big house and so forth. And that means I have to work more. But that means not only do I work more, I get taxed more, and I lose that family time. It was that time I can never buy back, right? So it was a hard lesson to learn as I get older, as I'm trying to set up my retirement. If that balance is coming, when I can cut back, when I can work when I want to.
Awesome. Yeah, I heard a quote that was, anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to your family. And it's a really interesting way to kind of think about things. And I have two young kids. My son Jack is almost 4. My son Owen just turned 5 months old. And man, it's such a joy to just get to spend some time with them. I've had some paternity leave and some leave recently, and it's just been so great. And I think about that opportunity. I'm like, man, this is where like true fulfillment is spending time with my family. And like, how can I balance both that and work and entrepreneurship and real estate and everything? So I think it's something to just always learn about. So I love to hear different insights. So I really appreciate that. Speaking of balance and speaking of, kind of expediting your retirement, as you mentioned, let's talk a bit more about real estate. What does your real estate portfolio look like now, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, right now, as an LP, I've invested over like 14 properties. As a GP, 5 right now in partnerships with other people. Right now, our portfolio spans over Arizona and Salt Lake City, Utah, and one in California, my little duplex. I count that. So yeah, and I also, as an LP, have a couple of properties. And
how did you get interested in real estate investing?
That's a great question. I have a great story. My mom, my dad, they thought real estate was the way to go. Okay. So they had the nice little single family home portfolio. My dad passed away years ago or so. My mom, she's 91. She owns like 12, 13 doors here in Southern California. Just give you one example. She bought a fourplex in Huntington Beach when I was 6 months old. I turned 60 a month ago. And she still has that property. So imagine the passive income with all of that. We also owned a grocery store, and she sold the business, still has the property. She actually just did a 1031 exchange on a house to buy 2 months from the house I'm living right now. So I've always been exposed to real estate. I just didn't understand it because I was the typical Asian kid. Oh, you got to do well in school. You got to go to medical school. You got to work, save, right? Buy a house, work, save. I used to do all the renovations I have three brothers, there's four of us, but I was the only one that said, hey, that person's leaving. Can you do the turnover? So I learned how to do toilets, the tile, painting, and also I totally hated it. Didn't really understand it right now. Now I totally get it. So that's my background in real estate. But I was working. We had the little duplex there, and about 15 minutes from our house. Like, okay, that's gonna be my cash cow when I finally retire. I'm like, really? Is that all it is? And then, as you go into real estate, it's all about trust and relationships. So one of my friends we grew up in the church together. Our families did. His name is Steve Lowe, and he actually has done very well in multifamily. And he actually introduced this to us. And so I was talking with him, and I said, yeah, I just recently got incorporated in my medical practice. And he just went, no, I got something for you because it's all the tax stuff. Like, what? Really? So he introduced me to multifamily. That's where I started in my LP investing. But the first thing I told him was, and this sounds great, but you have to convince my wife about this because as an ER doc, I'm like, let's do it, right? Whereas my wife, she like slowly reins me in and says, we gotta talk about this. She's just very methodical, and actually is a great compliment for me. So when Steve came over and, did his thing, and she goes, that's a great idea. Let's do it. I'm like, I was just totally shocked, right? So we did it for, we started investing for a couple of years as LP. And then we decided, we should take advantage to be more active and to accelerate all this, scale this up. And one was because of the real estate professional status. We have the ideal situation because I'm full time, but my wife is a homemaker. So that's where we're at. And that's where we become more active. We actually joined a mastermind through Vertical Street Ventures. And so we learned all the ropes and everything. And now he's on 5.
That's awesome and really cool to hear about your journey and great to hear, about your wife complimenting you. I tell folks all the time, if you can get your spouse on board, you're good to go. And it's really cool. You had the mentorship with Steve and he kind of, he taught you the ropes and you were able to invest with someone. What would you say for folks who are getting started to look into when they're trying to figure out next steps for real estate investing or finding a mentor like Steve? What would you say to them?
Yeah, it just do your due diligence, right? Because it's learning curve for me because I didn't have any marketing or financial background. So I always tell people that it seemed like the learning curve was steeper than going from medical school to, internship, residency, fellowship. Because, we're trained as scientists, right? There's some numbers involved, but just to get into our mastermind, go to conferences, go to meetups, just to meet somebody who's in the space and just talk to them. And, everything's on YouTube right now. Or LinkedIn, you can get free education because before you get to these other masterminds, then you have to pay for what it is. Yeah, you do that. We try to learn from certain people, but just find somebody you can trust or just ask somebody who might be in the space or someone they know. Again, it's about relationships and trust as you go.
Yeah, we talked about this before the podcast, how important networking is and relationships are for real estate investing and really just anything in life if you want to be successful. I think a lot, the information is out there. We're really fortunate to have YouTube University and all these free resources and links, but the implementation and the accountability is the hard part. And that's where mastermind programs or mentorship can be really helpful.
One of the great things about the Vertical Street Ventures Academy is that right now I'm a GP as a student GP. So we're actually running the property management stuff. We do the meetings. My wife and I, we do the investor newsletter and so forth. So we're actually getting hands-on experience. So that helps me as, I branch out to get other people to partner with. I said, this is what we can offer and do that. And that helps contribute to the rep.
You mentioned in the beginning that you're an LP and a GP. If folks who aren't familiar with what that terminology means, do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, limited partner is just like anybody who wants to invest into an investment. You could let's say $50,000 down and let the money work for you, basically. As a general partner, you're the one running the show in the background, whereas you're overseeing the actual operations of the property, whether as an operator, an asset manager, or I'm a capital fundraiser. So it's just like the business of the
I've been fortunate to be a GP on a boutique hotel, and it's cool to see like everyone's different skill set and the teamwork that is involved to put one of these big deals together. I mean, you have, multiple different folks who are working on the deal in different capacities, and capital raising is a great one, more often for physicians, because we're fortunate that we have a lot of friends who may have higher incomes and are looking to invest and don't have the time. And so they can be LP investors and get that, mailbox money, if you will.
Right. Well, the thing is that you're just saying you need a team to do it, a good team, because you can't do it yourself. Like here, I'm in the work in the emergency room. Yeah, I'm the attending. I can do most. I need my fellows. I need my residents to see all the patients. I can, guide them through that. So it's the same concept to be a team player. You just surround yourself with the best people, because if someone that falls, okay, here we go, then you really have to, again, do your due diligence and who you partner with, vet them well, look at, their past history, how well they've done in the space, and
you mentioned Vertical Street Ventures, a mastermind that you were in, I believe. Tell folks a little bit more about that and what led you to joining a mastermind program.
Yeah, it's led by Steve Lowe and Jenny Gu. They're based out here in Yorba Linda. Most of their properties are based in Phoenix and Tucson. But it was just a next step because we want to become active investors instead of the passive that hasn't helped. So we just want to take the next step to learn. And I know Steve for 25 years. And again, I wouldn't have gotten into this if I didn't know Steve, right? Again, relationships, friends, and so forth. So they put us through one-on-one, coaches, learning about the different nuances of real estate, particularly multifamily. So you get to meet a lot of different people. So some people that I've met up, we've partnered with on other deals. One, we actually are host partners for it's called the Passive Income Club meetup that we do every third Thursday here in Southern California. So it's just keeping up with those relationships. Again, the networking is powerful, as well as the opportunity to be part of a GP team and just, again, learn the nuts and bolts and going through all the different nuances. Yeah, the market's been down a little bit. Rents have been soft. What do you do in those cases, right? Do you do concessions? Do you give out incentives for people to rent? So just those little things that really add up in the end. So it's been a great ride with them in terms of the learning, and you learn something new every day as you go through it.
Yeah, it's really important to have that, approach when it comes to real estate. We're all smart people, driven people, type A people. We know a lot about medicine. I don't know about you, but I didn't learn a lot about real estate investing or finances or taxes or anything in medical school. And so it's really important to surround yourself with folks who have that experience. And sometimes it costs some money to do that, but that's going to expedite your real estate investing journey so much more than if you try to do it on your own. Do you feel like your growth has, been significantly increased, or the speed that you've been able to achieve everything that you have?
Absolutely. They say if you're the smartest person in the room, go find another room, right? So I'm not going to be in this room. One of the things with Vertical Street Ventures, they had 2 national conventions. Wow, awesome. They asked me to be the MC. So, that was great because the first time I did, I had no clue. I was just going up there. So I think do the Michael Buffer. You should, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, that type of thing. Just get people hyped up and all that. And just introduce these people. And I'm listening to their talks, all the different explanations, all the numbers with rents and interest rates and what's going to happen. And I'm sitting there like, I don't even understand this. This is right. I was doing some research, trying to understand it. We joined the academy just by a couple months before the first BSV con. The second year time around, I said, my goodness, it was a year later. I understood all this stuff. My wife and I were going to conferences. I said, we actually understand this stuff. It's more interesting because before we're like, okay, we're just here to network and see people. What do we do? But now we have this interest, like, okay, what they're talking about, what they think, what the horizon would be like, whether the different market forces are doing that. I said, I actually understand this a little bit better. And so then I can actually talk to people about this and with some confidence, right? And of course, if I don't know, I'll check about it. But it's just amazing over the past 2-3 years how much, knowledge, like a sponge, to grasp on.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can graduate medical school and finish residency, like you can successfully invest in real estate. It's just getting the right education and learning from the right huge. That's awesome. And what a cool adventure for you to do with your wife. Like, any tips for folks who are like, hey, I really want to do this, but I don't know how to get my spouse on board. Do you have any tips for those folks?
Yeah. Well, you got to have your spouse on board because it's, we're dealing with lots of money, right? Lots of numbers and so forth. One of our things, my company is called the Peace Equity, and it's some special meaning behind it because the first 4 letters is an acronym of our family's first names, Peggy, Elizabeth, Austin, and Calvin. So one of our policies that we do, if we have somebody come on as a potential investor, we have both partners there because we want to make sure, what's the number one cause of marital strife? It's money, right? And I don't think we had a cause of that. Case in point, we had I'm not sort of going off a little bit, but a couple from our church invested with us, and she's a dean at the local university. He's the computer IT guy. He was all the numbers. He was all into it. We took him out to lunch. I said, hey, what do you think about the deal we just did, right? Oh, I don't know anything about it. I'll let him do it. Like, oh, no. Right? So that's the thing. I mean, you could do it, but it's just better if your spouse is there to support one another and do it as a pair. So, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of numbers, big money. It's not like $50, right? We're talking about 50,000 or whatever. That's a lot of money. And you just have to be on the same page. Like I was just telling before the podcast, we were just talking about that at GP huddle about a potential another opportunity. And I told my wife, I'm going to go be on with Alex in a couple minutes. What do you think about that? I think it's really good. We need to talk about it, which is fine, which we need to talk about because I can't just say, let's just do it. So she needs to be on the same board, on the same page and so forth. So that's my recommendation. I mean, you could try doing it by yourself, but I strongly suggest that.
Absolutely. Communication is key. Say that 5 times fast. Communication is key. And yeah, I've learned the same thing with my wife. And I know there's some things that she really wants to know about and a lot of things she doesn't care about, but always have that conversation, especially if it involves, a large amount of capital. It's always worth running by her, answering any questions she has and making sure we're on the same page because, investments not always going to work out as it's planned. And so it's important to know like, hey, there's a chance that this money doesn't come back like we expect it to. And so I think that's really important. Right. That's very cool. And then it sounds like Peggy has rep status as well.
Yeah, we're working on this. This will be the first year that we'll qualify. Last year, we didn't do much in 2023. So I said, we need to wrap this up because, I don't want to miss there and just turn those passive, losses to active. It'll offset my salary, which I think would be a great deal. And then hopefully we can invest that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, real estate professional status is a huge perk for folks. Spouse may be a homemaker or maybe looking for a job. If they can have a real estate adjacent job, then you can utilize that, the passive losses against your active income and it can be a huge tax benefit, which is incredible. That's awesome. So you mentioned that you guys invest largely in Arizona, California, Utah, and Texas, correct? Is there any reason in particular that you guys have chosen those markets or what are some things that you like?
Yeah. From what we learned, is just try to invest in the landlord-friendly states like Arizona and Texas and Utah because of the different rent laws. Yeah, I live in Southern California. I have a little duplex, but the laws are a little bit different here in terms of you look at the overall underwriting and so forth, but you can never, there's always risk involved, right? So it can be like vacancies, people don't pay, people can live in an apartment in California for up to a year without paying rent, right? That's what happened to my mom. She went through that. She had a situation where it was a single mother and their child upstairs unit and the boy was throwing Legos, Tonka toys, whatever into the toilet, overflowed, ruined that unit downstairs. Second time that happened, my mom said, you're out, I'm going to evict you. She was, oh, no. But it took 6 months, no rent, attorney fees, court date to get that person out. I mean, whereas in these landlord-friendly states, it may take 3 days, you serve, they're out within the month. So it's unfortunate that, you have to think about it that way, but again, you have to look at the overall business plan, right? And in terms of making things work for for your limited partners, right? So because we try to maximize their returns.
Yeah, California and landlord friendly don't go together, that's for sure. What are some other market dynamics or things that you look for in specific markets?
Yeah, so right now our latest deals have been in Salt Lake City and Utah. So it's a growing space there. Clean city, but they just got the new Utah Hockey Club, the new sports team. They're getting the Winter Olympics again in 2038, I believe. So a lot of growth there, and everything is there. That the airport Delta has a big hub there, so a lot of economy, a lot of growth. And the other things too, it's a relatively young market. Like the average age of a person who's renting there is 33 years old, right? So things like that, growing markets, it ranks a lot of the different parameters, like best state to start a business and so forth. So that's what we look for.
Folks move into Utah, all those sorts of things, really important in that diverse economy, which is huge. You're not just relying on one.
Yeah. Everyone's leaving California, except for me.
They're all coming here to Colorado, to Texas, to Utah. Yeah. What are you guys working on right now in regards to your business?
Right now we're raising capital for a portfolio that we're doing in South Salt Lake City. It's an 80-unit portfolio between 2 properties. And it's just about like 4 miles from downtown Salt Lake City. So it's actually, we closed the deal, but we're backfilling so that if anybody's interested, it's a lower risk because all the due diligence, all that risk has been already taken care of. So we're working on that. And I was just on another potential deal and also in Utah right now. So we're just thinking about that. Yeah, good. This one that we're thinking about is a value add. One of them we did did earlier was more just a stabilized property already. So that was the one in downtown Salt Lake City. Not much had to be done. So just bring up the rents up to market rate and minimal value add and so forth. So this one, the portfolio, we were fortunate because a lot of the interiors were already done by the previous owner. They just ran out of money to do the exterior. So all we had to do is, the landscaping, decks, rails on the outside, new playgrounds, dog runs on properties. So yeah, it's amazing how little things add up. One of it is actually just the monetizing of the laundromats. No one carries quarters anymore, right? So we're using a cash app on your phone that will, bring in more revenue from that way.
I guess this is a really important point to hit on, in terms of how commercial properties are valued, net operating income, cap rate. If you're increasing the net operating income, you're greatly increasing the value of the property. And you mentioned some ways that you do that: dog runs, cash apps, so more people are probably paying for laundry, those sorts of things. Do you mind explaining a little bit about how those properties are valued and how even some of those smaller things can greatly increase the value of your properties?
Yeah, one of the things is you have to do your due diligence. Just when we did the walkthrough for one of the properties, you saw like 20 dogs out there. But when you look at the T12 and the rent roll and everything, they're only like 5 for like paying a pet fee. So things like that, just trying to improve on that. Also, storage areas and the carport. So extra needs in terms of income that way. So just the little things that add on: pet fees, storage fees, and things like that. So yeah, that just, drives the NOI up to,
One of my friends, he added a dog run and they turned it from being unfriendly to pets to pet friendly and charged like $30 a month, I think, in pet fees. In between doing that and able to increase rent plus the pet fees, they added $300,000 in value to their property. Yeah. And that's the beauty of commercial. When when you're talking about 100 units times $30 more per month plus the pet fee, like it's crazy the amount of forced appreciation. Yeah.
Well, it just scales up. Yeah, it's amazing how it appreciates that. Even just doing other things, just to spruce it up, curb appeal, right? To get people to come, people want to stay, just to make the area a better place to live. Because when you do refinance or you want to sell, you want those, those occupancy rates to be high and, 95 plus. That's, we all aim for. Yeah, it could dip in certain months, but you just want to keep that average as high as possible by beautifying the area, making it a great place to come home to, right?
Well, in academics for the last 31 years, have you been able lately to teach your residents or your fellows about real estate investing or financial literacy, anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is because, as you probably know, no one taught us financial literacy in med school, right? So I know you had Tom Burns as one of your guests, right? Your first guest. And, I saw him talk at the Best Ever Conference a couple of years ago. And I always have this handy with me.
Yeah.
It's the Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. I hand these out to my fellows and my residents. Hey, this is for you. Just think about it. You may not be ready, but, just let me tell you about the wars I've been through. So I talked to them about it. It's all, again, it's been wellness and balance. You don't have to work that hard. My original avatar when I first started capital raising was the female attending physician, because they have to balance a life as a mother, as a wife, as a doctor, right? And I've had some of my junior colleagues, female colleagues, and they say, hey, Calvin, can you work this shift for me? And I said, why? Well, my son is sick or husband's on a business trip, no daycare, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I can help you. I can also help you in something else. So just imagine in that. I know they give me, I'm not ready. I said, that's fine, but just put that in your head, because you'll see as your family grows, as you get older, females, I'll say this out, they're the stronger gender because they can balance out and do a lot of things, but it's still hard, right? So that hopefully through, financial literacy, passive income that's out there for them so they don't have to work as hard. I know it's hard because we've been through school. We worked a lot to get where we're at, and that's fine. And you don't have to lose your identity as being a doctor. You just come back and do, again, I work 14 shifts, or 13, 14 shifts a month. I want to work 4 shifts a month, once a week. That's my goal because I still love to practice medicine. I want to do that, continue to do that.
Tom Burns, great guy. So honored to have had him on the podcast. Yeah, he was the first guest. So for folks who haven't heard that episode with Tom Burns, go back and listen to it. He was actually the reason I started the podcast. I heard him on my friend Brian Lubin's podcast, The Action Academy. And I told my wife, like, man, listen to this episode. It's amazing. I want to be like Tom. And she listened to it and she's like, he's great. And I told her, I said, hey, I want to start a podcast, but I want Tom Burns to be the first guest. If he's not, I'm not starting the podcast. If he does, I'll do it. Because I didn't know if I wanted to add something else to my plate. And so I I emailed him. I don't even know how I found his email,
Right.
but I emailed him and I asked him to be the first guest on the podcast. And probably 6 or 8 weeks or so went by, and I didn't hear anything back. I was like, yes, I'm off the hook. I don't have to start this. And he emailed me back and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I would love to be the first guest. We were just backpacking through Panama or something awesome like that. Yeah, which is so cool. And I was like, this is why I want him on even more. And it was an incredible episode, and been fortunate to keep in contact with him since. And it's been awesome. And it's, as we mentioned before, it is so cool to see physicians doing awesome things in the real estate space and entrepreneurship space, to have that freedom and flexibility to work one shift a month if they want to, or one shift a week if they want to, and still kind of get the best of both worlds in that balance that we talked about before. I'm really fortunate. I can separate from the Air Force next summer, June of 2025. My active duty service commitment will be up. And I'm so fortunate that we've been really lucky with some of our real estate investments and businesses. And I have the freedom to practice medicine and live life how I want to, which is the mission of Physicians and Properties. And I'm grateful for that. I feel the same way as you. I really, really love taking care of patients and seeing patients, but I would like to do it a little bit more so on my own time and when I want, where I want, and however many shifts I want. And so really, really grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, I think I'll be cutting back in July of the next academic year, part-time, like 2/3. I still need my benefits. I got to pay for medical insurance and things like that. So I'm pretty good health, at least as of today. But, it's just those uncertainties sometimes, right? You just have to make sure that I'm glad I have medicine as a career, and, I can use it continuing. Real estate maybe will take over, medicine will be a backup, but it'll always be the front of my big career as a physician.
Yeah. It's so gratifying being a physician and having the opportunity to take care of patients. And it's such an incredible thing. And it's hard and frustrating. And I'm sure you've probably seen it over your 31 years that, there's sometimes patients are not at the center of care as it may be assumed that they are, or as it may be assumed that the healthcare company or whoever it may be that's in charge is taking care of them and mentioning that. And so I think that's really hard for me to kind of realize hey, this maybe isn't necessarily what I thought it was going to be, largely for things out of my control. And I know a lot of physicians feel the same way, and we really want to take care of patients. That's why we got in. We don't want to do all these other administrative tasks that we're forced to do or whatever that may, to be reimbursed. So it's an interesting dynamic. And I think, this is probably something we could talk about forever. I think healthcare in America really needs to change. Personally, as a primary care doc, I think we really need to focus on prevention and primary care and not specialized medicine, and not going to the ER for your cough and your cold and your urgent care issues. Yeah, you need to go to the ER for emergencies. Otherwise, come see me and I'll help handle everything else. But yeah, it's just, we have to figure that out as a country. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I joke with my wife all the time. I'm like, hey, maybe, after all this real estate stuff shakes out, maybe I'll, take a run for Senate or something. And we'll just, the whole platform will be healthcare and completely change healthcare in America. And I don't want to get reelected. That would be the only two things that I'd run off my platform. Yeah, and I'd probably get elected. So yeah. But yeah, it's just frustrating when it ultimately leads to patients not getting the care they deserve.
Yeah, it's especially with the mental health issues, and we get a lot of boarders and our pediatric age. It's really sad, right? Just the access to different services, like you're saying, but it's particularly mental health is so much out there that comes into our emergency department. What do we do with this, right? How do we maximize it? It's tough, and it's just I don't know what the solution is, but it's building more mental health facilities, and that's hard to do.
This is a sidebar, but we mentioned mental health and pediatric patients. Have you noticed, or do you think you've kind of come across anything that leads to more increased mental health issues with the pediatric population? I mean, I'm certainly seeing a lot of social media, TikTok and Instagram and those sorts of things.
I think that's what it is. It's just you're on social media, everyone has to be perfect. I want to be like that, right? People put things on. I'm guilty of that because I put on vacation pics, right? And things like that. And why can't I be like that? Why can't I be perfect like that? So forth. And it's also the dynamics of the family too, because there's dysfunction. Every family has a degree of dysfunction and so forth. But it's just a matter of identifying it and, helping these people out from the forefront. But, a lot of things come from childhood issues, right? That leads to different things. Yeah, the world that we live in now is different when I was a toddler or a teenager and so forth. So we didn't have cell phones, right? What did we have? We just had the TV without a remote, 13 channel, so.
Yeah, technology is changing the landscape and changing things over time and impacting kids. And, I think about myself, and I was talking with my buddy Luke on this elk hunting trip, like how as a kid, we just spent all our time outside, biking around all over the place, doing all these things. We were never inside. There wasn't an opportunity to play games or be on the phone because that didn't exist too, like you mentioned. And yeah, it's just really interesting. Right. And, you mentioned you have 2 adult kids, correct? What are some parenting lessons that you learned or some things that maybe beneficial to folks like myself who have young kids and want to be present for them?
Yeah, I just spent as much time as you all with my son. He's a CPA, and my daughter works for a nonprofit company. You just invest all your time as you can with them. Do what you can. Yeah, they're great kids because they're their mother, honestly, because I was working a lot. But just to be there for them and support them and ask how they're feeling. And that's the key. Yeah, that's the key. My wife and I were talking about this. So we're also like peer counseling. We help run a relationship workshop too. So people like my age, do my parents ask how I felt and certain things and felt, because you just have to talk to them. Communication is a big thing, just so that they're open with you. No secret. I know it's hard, right? And some things they do. I remember cleaning out my car. We're selling it. I see this note is written by my daughter. I said, "Yeah, please just deal with it." And I said, I was shocked. She's my angel, right? We just talk about it. But Dad, I was doing this volunteer thing. Like, okay, whatever. I guess things could be worse, right? But it just to talk to them, encourage them to talk about their feelings, because we can discipline them and so forth, but just to, get their emotional side going. Because, if I grew up in a very disciplined family, and it was just like, okay, I just have to do what I have to do, but let them decide what they can, let them, learn from their mistakes, let them fall. And, you just be there to pick them up and keep them going. And also our faith too, that helped quite a bit as well, because growing up as a Christian in a church life and so forth, they had all their peers and support with their families and their fellowship that played a large role.
Yeah, I read a book. I'm a Christian as well. And I read a book, Wild at Heart by John Elridge, every year. And it's basically about how to just be wild at heart as a man. And also it's such a great parenting book as a father of boys on how can you help make your kids love women well, be adventurous, and just be wild at heart, as the title is. And there's a lot more to the book, but simply it's just how can you spur that sense of adventure in kids and in yourself and what men really need to thrive. And it's just an incredible book. And I think, I just try and provide those opportunities as much as we can. And I think a lot of it too is about, especially for my son Jack, who's 4, or almost 4, letting him push the limits, but also there be some control. And so it's he doesn't know that the boundaries are there, but I do. And so I think that that's been really helpful for us. We go camping a lot. We have a little camper. We just did 21 days out in Yosemite, actually. So we drove out from Colorado and went all over to Yosemite and stuff. And I think it's easy as a parent to get frustrated when they get all muddy and dirty and bring that into the camper or bring that into the house. But then I'd see the joy in his face as he's jumping through mud puddles and, doing all these things. And it's amazing. It's been such a cool opportunity and journey. And thanks for sharing those tips with me.
Yeah, I just shared those times with the kids. When I had time, I was the alternative coach, my son's little league team. I'm the first base coach. I didn't say that, but just to be out there and just immerse with him, with, his friends and him as a baseball player, just to have that time, you just always remember that, to cherish that. And, we always talk about that too. Just remember that time we used to, watch the baseball, coaching and things like that. It's little things like that, but, they'll remember that, Jack is 4. He still remember it. You never know, but that leaves an imprint on him. He knows that at a good time, you're there for him, and then that sets him up.
I'm doing the best I can. And certainly his currency right now is time playing with me. And so it's been a blast. And we're at such a fun age now of getting to do really fun things. And it just, the stuff that they say is just hilarious.
Yeah, you gotta take advantage, because Blake and I, my son's getting married, and next May, my daughter got married 4 months ago.
He's 4 already. And, I remember the day he was born like it was yesterday. And it's just crazy. And it's so cool too to see that they want to be just like you, but and he is my little mini me, but he knows exactly the right buttons to push. And it's just a good time. I've learned so much being a parent. I'm really fortunate to have had great parents, amazing dad to model, off of. And anyways, a good sidebar. I think things that are that's just really important, that is what's going to be left when we're gone. And, and I know generational wealth is important for you and important for me as well. And really, I think what's more important than the monetary, generational wealth, is the values that are instilled in our kiddos so that they can pass that on to the next generation and the next generation and those sorts of things as well.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Calvin, I want to be respectful of your time. How can folks reach out to you if they want to know more, if they want to invest with you in this next potential deal opportunity? How can they do that?
My email is cal@Peace Equity. I have to spell it out because it's a play on number. It's CAL@PEACEQUITY. So there's not two E's in the middle. It's just Peace Equity flows. You can also reach me through my website. It's www.peaceequity.com.
You have a great LinkedIn page, and it's been awesome following you and learning from you there as well. We'll be sure to include all those links in the show notes. Thanks again, Dr. Lowe, for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time and your insights and your wisdom and experience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your service. I really appreciate the time here.
Thank you. Well, with that, and Dr. Calvin Lowe and Dr. Alex Schloe with another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast. Signing off. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.